Get to today. At a lot of the direction response. We'll get to maybe the new news that is coming out of Destin. We'll talk his time in Destin. We'll have the coach, Wim Sanderson, a little bit earlier today at 8:30. News for Alabama basketball yesterday, GMAC, as LeBaron Philon announces he's withdrawn from the NBA draft.
Yeah, better late than never, right? I mean, this to me felt a little bit like a no-brainer. I think Philon's an amazing player and has every bit of an opportunity to develop into a lottery pick. I think he's that good. But there was a lot of buzz about him going in the second round. If you're going in the second round, I mean, you're better off nowadays in college, coming back to college and making a bunch of money in the NIL. So I'm really happy to see that cooler heads prevailed. I think it's the right move, and I hope that he can now develop into the player that he's ultimately going to become in Tuscaloosa as opposed to the G League. So I think it's a great move, and I think it's a smart one.
Draw his name from the NBA. Sort of a late burst in the that I think got the attention needed for him to even enter the draft. From the talent perspective, everybody, but never a decision that probably held because that prospectus was not going to be a lottery pick. Some do, I think, to his size, some do just to experience and how much we've seen of him. But it's a massive gift to be able to build that offense around. Seen of doing, he can be a special player. There's no doubt.
So special, and I just wonder, what's his upside as far as the NBA draft potential? I know that size is going to be the biggest holdback, and I think if he can just get a little bit more physically mature, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, he'll be an unbelievable player. Because if you watch how clutch he is, how he handles, how he can create space to get his own shot, how he just squanders momentum for the opposition almost every time he touches the ball. I mean, the guy is outstanding. It's just, I don't know if he's ever going to be big enough to be a top 3, top 4, top 5 pick. So maximize your value, become an all-time great at Auburn. Maybe go chase a championship, maybe another Final Four appearance, and you'll be able to cash in the rest of your life and then take your chances in the NBA. So I think he's an amazing player, and I think the NBA is in his future. If I were him, I'd look at college and just completely ride that wave.
Some other good Serbian 6'9", 20 years old, average year. In Serbia, haven't seen the tape. I don't know.
Is that on your iPad?
I don't have any with there. 6'9", kind of a swingman, looks pretty athletic, but we've seen what some of the European players can do. First off, he's 20. You would imagine that he's going to be able to at least come over and have an idea what things are all going to be about. Be able to come in and help Bruce Pearl's team. I imagine emotionally a tough one for me. That's my school. Right. We'll find a way to get past our differences here. It's been a long time.
Still a dark spot about that? Big rivalry still?
Well, it's not. So, I mean, you grow up, that's just kind of what it was. It's a rival either way.
I get it. I'm fine with that. I just
not
didn't know.
Supposed to like Alabama, not supposed to like Serbia. That's just
I get
the way
that.
I was raised.
Do you have is it awkward around the dinner table if one of your friends is rooting for Serbia?
We haven't had that. We haven't even gotten to the Serbia conversation yet, but I think that they'll be on board with it once we do.
But if Serbia's winning, I think one of the boys might jump on board.
No, the fire. It's like when we came in last night from baseball. He literally said, "I'm rooting for the team that's winning." He didn't even care. He didn't know what the team was, who it was, who played for him.
What color jersey they're wearing?
About 38. So, yeah, that's probably a safe bet there, kid. I'll take the team that's winning by an absolute blowout. But
yes,
nonetheless,
smart.
Chooses his teams as for now.
That doesn't matter. Into that.
Take the winner.
He'll be a Bama fan soon enough.
All right, so the meetings in Destin. The 5A plus 11 at large is now being discussed, and in which this was discussed at length. And this is a little bit different than the one we talked about yesterday and that we heard yesterday from different people down in Destin. But on said call, the 5AQ plus 11 at large college football playoff that the considering, many ADs say they would specifically if the at 8 conference games. Big Ten, as we know now, plays 9. So everybody feels just locked in arms, moving forward with everything around college football. The Big Ten would not be on board with. And it's yesterday of some of the comments from previous years with Greg not being on board with multiple automatic qualifiers, and that was, hey, you got a 14. Yeah, without an AQ. Right. Up to 16, and probably that you're going to 9. 4 AQ sounds pretty good. Because what are you going to be doing more of? Play a more. Record not going to be as good as a lot of other people, but 5 11. It sounds geeks are not going to be on board with this.
Understandable, but here's the problem: is you have to have everybody kind of in agreement, and I think that the Big Ten isn't. See, the Big Ten is in a tough spot because they have national championship caliber teams, but they probably don't have. Teams 4, 5, and 6 aren't going to be nearly as good as the SECs. That's at this moment, by the way. Doesn't mean it won't be. It'll be that way forever because I think Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan. Let's remove Michigan at least for the moment. Oregon, Ohio State are going to be there every year. I feel really, really confident in that. I think every few years, those plus Michigan plus Penn State. So I think you got 4 that are going to be in the mix pretty regularly. Then it all really comes down to whether or not USC bounces back. If USC bounces back, then you have 5. But who's the next man up after them? Is it Michigan State? Is it Washington? Is it, last year, obviously, it was the Indianas of the world. Like, who is that next man up? Who's that perennial number 6 that has a chance to kind of make things interesting because they just don't have it. You look at the SEC, they've had 6, 7 different teams win national championships in the last 15, 20 years, it feels like. From LSU to Georgia to Florida, all those teams have won titles. Texas has been there. Oklahoma's been there. Oklahoma's won one in the BCS era. So you see a bunch of teams in the SEC that have won them, not so many in the Big Ten. And I think that's part of the reason why they want those automatic qualifiers to guarantee more seats at the table in the off year when they don't have those great teams playing well.
Here. When do you think
NIL?
Wouldn't have said that before that, but now with the ability to spin the way that they do, you would put them in that category that you pretty much be in a 12 or 16 team playoff every year.
Yes.
It's wild how it's changed. It has changed. I do Bill is assists in NIL, but I think you're right about them that kind of putting them over the hump because you could look at a Texas Tech way that they're spending, and I think it would be comparable, if not more in some cases, to say, well, they've got the money to be able to do it, but it's just not happening. But wild to think about. Say, all right, give me 2 teams, 3 that you think are going to be in the college to be able to make the playoff. Who are those going to be? Not many people would immediately go Oregon in the Big Ten, but of where we are, you think that they would be there.
Well, if you look at it, they have more money than anybody. They spend more money on college, so it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. Plus, they're in the Big Ten. I think my thing is not that they make the playoff every year, it's that they'd likely finish in the top 4 in the Big Ten every year. If they were in the SEC, let's be real, I really don't think I'd say that. But in the Big Ten, yeah, I like their chances.
Yep, it's be the regular team or the go-to team that they would throw out and say this will be the one from the Big Ten. So,
do you know Ohio State's obvious, right? So remove Ohio State. Who's that next team?
I think it's unfortunate that we can do it, just to be honest with you. I think it's unfortunate that we can sit there and say Ohio State's going to be in the playoff every year, Oregon's going to be in the playoff every year. I wish we were at least debating 3 of 7 that could possibly be there every year.
Well, do you agree?
Probably. They have and should. Like, I mean, he put up numbers everywhere. And I know he probably doesn't get some of the respect that he deserves, but I don't think that's an easy replacement. You got both on some interior. And
I agree.
But who else is scared? Mode now.
I think Michigan's got a chance to be a lot better this upcoming year, but we're near as good as they were 2 years ago.
No, and how far going to take a little bit of a dip? How far does the defense slide? And some of that will depend, I believe, on if the offense is able to carry. I don't really know what to anticipate.
Yeah.
And say if you're going to play a freshman quarterback, us and see what happens.
And we've seen freshman quarterbacks do that, but it's still the anomaly.
Oklahoma, Western, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, at Rutgers, Wisconsin, at Iowa. That's the Oregon schedule.
Huh.
It does not feel daunting. The road schedule. I mean, why play? That's still a bit of a rivalry game. November, yeah. At Rutgers, mid-October. You know, you never know what you're going to get there. And that, to an extent, I think, at Penn State early. At Northwestern doesn't really scare me. We don't know State this year. I mean, it's like 80% of their roster's new. I don't. None of us really have any idea what that's going to look like. USC, maybe could they have late? I'd much rather play USC late than early. I know that sounds crazy, but I just think they're going to be super physical. So we beat up at the end of November.
Right.
So, I mean, what's it? You get them at home. Though. It's a schedule that be in the playoff, yes, when you look at it. And who else from the Big Ten is going to be challenging? Who is just not even from a schedule perspective, but has the roster potentially play their way into the college football playoff?
The Big Ten is the Michigan States of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, if Nebraska could ever get back, but I was going to say more than the Michigan State and the Wisconsins. Like those
Iowa.
And Iowa, you know, every 3 years.
Yep.
Like those 3 teams were they were really, because they were old school and traditional. They were really fun to follow, and they played good, sound football. You know, I mean, meaning that if Ohio State goes in there and makes a couple mistakes, they could pull off the upset pretty quickly because they're not going to make any. You know what I mean? And that, I think, is something that has gone by the wayside because they just don't have the firepower to keep up. I mean, they can't keep elite skill. And you need elite skill nowadays to be great on offense. So I think that's a tough spot to be in. They don't have a lot of homegrown elite skill either. So that's a tough spot to be, but I think the Big Ten, as far as the middle section, I'm talking the middle section. I'm not talking about the top. Those Big Ten fans that are listening, they're like, oh, they're just SEC homers. No, it's not that. It's just I'm acknowledging the excellence at the top. But those teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the Big Ten, they don't do it for me anymore. And honestly, they used to. They just don't. I'm hoping that those teams can come back to earth and make it maybe a little bit more dramatic throughout the Big Ten race this year. Because tell me right now, Cole, if I gave you a horse put on a horse right now in the SEC, who you picking? Because it's hard. You might be considering 8 different teams, which is a pretty wild thing to think about. Whereas in the Big Ten, it's like, all right, Ohio State and Oregon, maybe, and Penn State. Those are the 3 this year.
It's a real. I like almost like the Big Ten misses swing game or two late October, early November that are going to decide if they're going to be in the playoff picture. Like you said, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, 90s, but just being a regular season. Iowa has been that team multiple times. I mean, we've seen them in the Big Ten championship game. I think Illinois this year, Northwestern, where they've been 4-year stretches of having won 7 or 8, and can they get a big win into a special type season? It's been a long time. So that does wrong for the Big Ten. Illinois 10 games last year. That's a pretty good. Indiana as a 10. We don't have the confidence there that that's going to happen. Very small stretches of, man, don't want to get them in November, or if they get a big win in the playoff picture, don't know where that part of that league is going to be this year. And that's probably going to decide, as you stated, going to be pretty good. Don't know what the quarterback situation bring exactly, but it's one with enough people around it and enough talent around it that it should be able to sort of work itself out, which kind of brings that I wanted to discuss today. Show. Before we get to that, I'll tell you about Train. The weather rainy today. Quick, a rain shower come through late yesterday afternoon. You just don't know. It's unpredictable. That's why Train, voted America's most trusted HVAC brand right now, can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor on select Train home comfort systems. Find out more at Train.com. It's hard to stop a Train. The development of a certain position is being discussed, and there's an article out. I want to have a conversation about that, but then roll into a conversation about a position that has even more the position that we want to talk development with. We'll do all back next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. the will quality defensive line play? Will you be able to protect your quarterback? Can you get in specifically on the other side of the ball as well? Can you be ceiling? I think some of the skills, some of the specialty players that you have. If you have issues with your floors at home,
that would be Shannara Flooring. They do an amazing job. Coming into your home, making sure everything's taken care of. They're respectful of your home, which is hard to find nowadays. Sometimes contractors come in, they mess a lot of things up. That will not be the case when you go with Fu and his company at Shannara Flooring. They also have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring by Shaw in stock, so you can go and see it, feel it, touch it before you install it. And this is great, great flooring. This is kid-proof, pet-proof, waterproof. It's awesome for all over your home, in kitchens and in laundry rooms. Plus, you can get 12 months financing with approved credit. So call, if you're thinking about making some changes to your floors, call who? Call 518-6423, or you can go online at food.
There's an intriguing article up at cbssports.com. Sheehan Jaraja, and it's about the development of offensive line play. The title in college football, what's behind the decline? And he talks to a couple of position, a couple of head coaches that have coached the position, talks to Aaron Taylor a little bit. But there are a couple of things that I want to discuss that are surprising in here also. So any excuse to talk offensive line play in trenches, we're going to do it because we put our hand in a date on the show. Portal era. Starting caliber CBS Sports. Does that sound
about right?
Yep. And then I think there's a couple on usually of the team and what they need could definitely go up. He asked Sam Pittman about wherever I've been, offensive linemen still the same, but keeping them is totally different. I have been surprised when and I go, God dang. From Pittman out, I thought it was fantastic.
I mean, I think it's amazing, but it's just population demographics. We've talked about this. How many people are 6'6", 300 pounds? Population is 6'6", 315, and can somewhat. Let me just save you the time. It's a very of the who can at least check the boxes, because let's be real, I'm an offensive lineman. If you're 5'9", 260 pounds, you cannot play in the SEC. You just can't. So those guys that check the measure just because, hey, maybe, just maybe, on the off chance that you have to go in there, you at least are big enough to stop these guys that are rushing the passer. I mean, that's, I think, the most amazing thing about this is it's purely about how tall and big you are.
That's it. That's the only
it doesn't matter how good you are or how much you've played. It's just, hey, are you big? Have a chance.
Well, we mentioned on manager, and he kind of used the same thing we were talking about offensive lineman last year to injury, and he would he's kind of like, guys, I don't go to the local, pull somebody out there from selling used cars that's 6'5", 320 that can move lateral, real thing. And then Alex Mirabal, who's one of the in the country at Miami, he's quite natural. It's something you have to teach from the ground up. It takes time. It's unnatural. These bodies are big. It takes some time to gain the core. 320, 345. It just takes time. And that's where it comes in, because now you don't have the time. You have to – and I mean, offensive lineman, Victor Riley, Kendall Simmons, guys that probably should have been able to come in and start and play ability, and it just didn't happen. Now, Willie for me, and we from Hall of Fame. He's on a completely different level. Alan Fan, now it's hard. Your systems, different schemes, coach different way. It was I'm familiar with, Greg. It almost hits you in a way sense as to why this position is not excelling at more places a little bit earlier. I mean, think offensive line just rolled in a new Thomas has gone like, man, here comes Gabe. Just had the next guy. Well, they were all there. So they were exact same fundamentals time and time again. And then
right.
There's not a lot of secondhand nature in offensive line play at a lot of places right now because of.
Well, it's but also the problem is it's a lot of less practice reps.
It's fair.
That's what it comes down to. Like you can't look. You can throw stuff in 7-on-7, but you can't. Be great.
I mean, you can. It's just it's going to be 100%. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you probably
should.
I've seen some guys trip.
Should.
Oh, the old, also known as the sniper, got him.
Turf
got him
monster.
right in the calf, and he tripped over himself. Like it happens. Rare. So you have now accelerated the development in a 7-on-7 culture. Slowed the development in the interior trenches culture. And that I think is a little bit difficult. And the first to go and play offensive line if they were to have bulked up, well, as a result of wanting to play in the summer with their friends, they're now playing tight end. And they're now running. And they're now doing some things that they want to do with the ball. Tasted the ball, guess what? You're not going and playing offensive line. There's about 7 guys I've covered in my 12 years doing this that would have been all-world, maybe all-pro offensive linemen that refuse to change from being a backup tight end. It makes no sense. It happens. I think that has something to do is we don't guys like a ridiculous amount, and we've introduced tempo offenses into high school football.
Yep.
Like, let me tell you what doesn't teach offensive line play. Tempo offense. It's the worst thing for offensive line. They can't even get their big butt in a stance. They're so out of breath. They're so to the next snap and making sure you can snap it again that they don't even finish the previous snap. Like it's awful from an offensive line standpoint. I've never understood why offensive linemen were able to be recruited these tempo offenses, but I think those are some of the big dealing with right now.
And it shined a little bit of a light that are happening. Andrew Ivins quoted in the story. He covers recruiting for 247. Going football is always you have to find the ones with the quickness, balance, to counter all the twitched up pass rushers that they're going to see on a regular basis, which is perfect. And there's no. But I did feel like I put it in the story because I would applicable to this story in all football, and the yard 2.7 to 8.42 to 8.64, the yards per carry. 4.21, 4.11. So yards per carry are down. Tackle for loss rate up. I think you and I could sit here and maybe poke holes. And stuff is you're going to have different reads on that are sometimes going to be misconstrued. You're going to have RPOs where a guy keeps the ball, tries to go run. It's not going to work. But at the end, teams are not finding as much space running the football on a as they had been. And I think it's an interesting number to throw out there because it's just another thing that goes maybe the weakness of this position in all of college football.
Yeah, and I don't know about a way to fix it. Like, I really don't know how you fix it.
Not until I mean you the only way to imagine a way to fix it would be to find Texas Tech who was overly committed to repairing position, and you're to stay. You're going to have to open your program to have the emphasis on developing that position and do it. I just think it's so much easier to circumvent, find band-aids, and just kind of survive and move on to the next one and hope that your perimeter positions can outweigh back and figure out ways around it. Because the main, as you talked about, the way to really get good the way is to do it full speed with somebody trying to make you look bad. That's it.
Yeah, but even if you do it in shorts, like what's dumber than walking camps in shorts?
It's the worst.
With pass rush,
bull rush. It's the dumbest because broken. I mean, good luck. That happened. I mean, you guys have seen them. I've posted that, but that sports in at a 7-on-7 camp where I'm sure they're down there in the end zone doing their own thing or whatever it is. So it doesn't take place. You've got to be in full pads. You've got to be doing it full speed. You got to be doing it against people that are also going full speed. It's the only way to learn it and excel at it and get good at it. It just is.
Plus the concussion fears too. Like, let's be real. I mean, I had a couple concussions. I never played O-line, but I had friends along the O-line that got concussed. It wasn't ever that severe, to be honest with you, partly because I don't think the contact range was big enough to ever have it, become a significant problem. You're not as exposed as, say, a quarterback or a wide receiver going over the middle. But no, I do look at the offensive line. I think because of some of the brain injuries and some of the concerns surrounding the brain injuries and those repeat contact, you're never anymore. Like back in the day, they weren't worried about concussions, so you just rep, and now there's real concern about that. So as a result, I don't think the guys are quite as tough, and I also don't think the guys are quite as willing to have full contact practices in the middle of the summer, in which they voluntarily go put their pads on and go get some pass rush reps.
The last is you. Let's it. There are ways to get out. I mean, think about what Caden Proctor did last year. Transfers to Iowa, transfers back to Bama. What did he get? Zero.
Zero, yeah.
And some guys bring some. They're taking visits. They commit to a place. Well, guess what they didn't do? Go through spring practice. So, Caden or any individual, some they can get to a place and play, and they're saying, well, I don't even have to go through a spring. Okay, cool. We'll sit and wait. We'll be fine. Not worried about it. Because there's no agent sitting there telling a kid, you need to get in there and go through spring ball. Not these agents. Real agents probably would, but not a lot of these agents that are handling these kids. So there's even and those were to our next conversation. And that is a lot of the offensive we're going to see this year and see the most of. Could it be better? We'll have that conversation next on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy. Hey, you guys tuning in. We just in not only the SEC, but all of college football, and a lot of interesting points, a lot of interesting thoughts that could be. Right. I mean, you go down now, we top 5 in the weeks ago on my podcast, but what you tell me what right now in the Southeastern Conference, like what look at and say, yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue for those guys. Like I feel.
Well, I really don't know if there's a group that I feel great about across the board. I think there's a few that I'm not losing sleep over. I think is maybe the appropriate way of kind of saying that. Like, for example, I think Texas' offensive line will be fine. I think A&M's offensive line has a chance to be decent. I think Bama's offensive line has got a chance to be good. I think Georgia's offensive line will be talented. I like Florida's offensive line. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a bunch. Yeah, all right. They are the stout unit.
But then you look at it, too. Team be there that could really hold them back. LSU, Miss, maybe 100% about what theirs is going to be like. Kentucky's had problems for a while now at that position.
Was good on the offensive line. Like, not trying to be negative. 4?
It's been a minute. South Carolina's a group that people think. I don't know if I have the ultimate confidence about back in some of the weapons. And if the might not be great up front. That could cost South Carolina. Or is it corner? Can be a good football. Offensive line might not allow it, and you have a new offensive coordinator. Miss. Got a great offensive line was pure. Even though people told it, we watched dirt on almost every time he dropped. There were a lot of people told me I was wrong on that.
They were
deal.
wrong.
I think the people in that part of the country about what they think I was wrong about initially. So it is what it is.
It happens.
But highlighted on a very year, and not with like either. Like short. Arkansas. Oklahoma's group was gross last year.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of that was injury, but just wasn't good. So those are. It did. And say, yeah. John, you got good skill. Defense should be solid. But if that offensive line, that's going to cost them a chance to maybe be a playoff team. So it feels like there's more teams if they go that could cost them a chance at a title than there are on the other side of this. So this week I took a look at the defense and what they were. And my top 5. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is it was very when I did kind of a case study top to bottom where these groups are in their totality compared to where I think a lot of people believe. We'll finish that discussion next on Mac and Cube in the morning.